Yes. Come on in. All right. And what is your name?
Kara.
Kara. Where are you from, Kara?
Chicago.
Chicago. Thank you for joining us live here, all the way from Chicago.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here.
What's your best fit type?
ENTP.
Uh-oh. I got two with me here.
Yeah, you're flanked.
Oh, no. At least you're on that side of the table. I'm not flanked, technically. Thank goodness. So what do you want to talk about tonight?
Okay, well, I don't think I want to go deep into uncertainty, but I'll go to my 10-year-old.
Okay.
And for me, that's extroverted feeling. And I've heard you guys talk a lot about how we're in an era where extroverted feeling is going to become increasingly important. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the things that are going on right now really are pain points in the realm of extroverted feeling. So since this is my 10-year-old function, I definitely find that I just don't know how to meet a lot of the situations that I see coming up in the world. And I was wondering if you'd talk a little bit about how we can develop ourselves to actually be good shepherds of this extroverted feeling energy.
Yeah. So you're referencing things we've talked about in coaching programs, I think maybe on the podcast, something. Our view, our opinion is that the 20th century, the last century, 1900s, was all about extroverted thinking. That was the dominant extroverted judging function on the planet. It built a lot of infrastructure. We had the skyscrapers in New York be built, right? And we had a lot of industrialism come online. I mean, it started in the 1800s, but it really came online, I think, in the 1900s. And we've talked about this, extroverted thinking wants to measure things. It built our infrastructure, which is a wonderful thing. But then in certain contexts, the Vietnam War is an example, there was no real metric for winning. So what is extroverted thinking's energy? The Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Pentagon, what do they decide? They're going to decide that body count, as an example, is going to be the metric they're going to use for who's winning the Vietnam War back in the 1960s and 70s. And so you can see both the benefits of extroverted thinking, effectiveness, in all the structure it builds, but also the damage it can do when it doesn't honor people, individuals. It can just throw people as a resource at something and use that as a measurement, and it can go offline really, like a lot. I think that was really the 20th century's energy. In this century, the 21st century, with the area of Facebook and online communities and all of this, we're a globalized society. We're a globalized community. And we got to figure out, how do we glue all of these disparate energies together and make community out of this enormous body of humans? So our opinion is that this century, the 21st century, is going to have the dominant extroverted energy of extroverted feeling or harmony come online. And we're already seeing a little bit of that. You can almost see a little bit of this energy come up, like, the way that we're supposed to speak to each other, the way we're supposed to treat each other. There's an attempt to improve, ameliorate that, make it a better experience for a lot of people. More gentleness, kindness, honoring of everybody's experience, not just the select few at the top. And it wants to flatten everything. No more hierarchy. Let's make it all flat. We're all equal, equality. All these messages are coming online. And so this energy, I think, this is a profound energy that is powerful on the planet right now. And so I'm just helping frame some of the questions you're asking. And why I think you're asking that is because we talked a little bit about that in different things. So I anchored that in here. And Tony, do you have some comments?
I
guess that was a dumb question. Would you like to speak now? It's probably a better way to say it.
Would you like to hit the Antonia button?
Now, do you have comments? Are you ready to speak your comments?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Fantastic.
So I think it's a really good question. And when Joel says it's our opinion, I would actually say it's more of an observation of something coming online. I don't know if it's like a hill I'll die on. If somebody's like, no, it's not the century of that, I'd be like, okay, it's not. But it's
do you have a hill you die on anything?
I do, actually.
For like your children or your
very
family?
Small number of hills, right? But there's not many of them. Not this one. But I do see it burgeoning. Social media, I mean, things like it's already started in other countries, but this idea of rating each other socially. Social
credit system. Ooh. You get like a 5-star rating on who you are as a person, like an Uber driver.
That's a tough one.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. And so if that is a thing, if that's going to be a thing and that's real, then that's a pretty hardcore extroverted feeling, harmony, energy coming online. So I love that you're asking, as even if it's your 10-year-old or tertiary function, I love that you're asking, like, how can we be good stewards of it? And the most important thing, I mean, I think there's a couple different pieces here. And the first one is any single function that is allowed to run loose without other functions making sure to shape it and keep it in line. will always do damage. Always. So if extroverted feeling is allowed to be on its own without any other influence containing it, it will do as much damage as extroverted thinking was allowed to do during the time periods that Joel mentioned, right? And the blind spot of extroverted feeling or harmony, I say this as a fellow user, is that we always believe we're so well intended, right? Like how could I possibly hurt anybody? I want connection. I want to create I want to create harmony. I want to get everybody's needs met. So the blind spot is in the damage it can do. So that first has to be acknowledged, right? It is not a function that even if altruism is its highest ideal, it doesn't mean that it's always hitting the target, right? It can do damage. And it's going to do the most amount of damage when it has not integrated the other side of the polarity of introverted thinking or accuracy. And that is everybody gets to think their own thoughts.
Okay.
And so when extroverted feeling, believing everybody is agreeing, that's the same kind of metric as body count. Okay. And it doesn't sound like it, right? That's not, I mean, we're not killing anybody, but you're killing thoughts and ideas. And if somebody is out of line and doesn't agree with you and you dogpile them and you call them a terrible human being because they're not agreeing with, whatever is the acceptable concept or meme in the collective.
Shame them.
You shame them. You say that they're poorly intended because they're not agreeing with you. It sounds like not that big of a deal at first, but then that's how thoughts die. That's how expression dies. That's how calibration and amelioration and optimization and all the other great things that introverted thinking or accuracy brings. It's how they all die. And so giving people room to disagree, giving people room to have their own opinions on things, to speak radical honesty, to speak their personal truth. You might not like it, right? It might create discord, but harmony is not created by ignoring thoughts, right? It's not like the thoughts go anywhere. They just end up in the shadows and they grow like mold where we can't see them. So you want all of those thoughts out there, and harmony is created through discord. Now, the challenge is that if you put two brains together, it doesn't matter how aligned they are in a million different ways. Two human beings are always going to disagree about something, which is one of the reasons why extroverted feeling or harmony has a tendency to not really dive into personal opinions on things. They kind of want to keep things at a place of mimetic simpatico. The less you know about somebody else's opinions, right, the more harmony you have. Right? If you don't speak another person's language, then you have no idea what you disagree. You can just smile and nod and everybody feels good. The more we talk, the more we communicate and express our ideas, the more opportunities for discord are going to come up, and some of them unreconcilable. To integrate introverted thinking, though, one thing that function understands, I would argue better than just about any other function, is that the universe is built of paradox. And the two sides of paradox must be represented. Otherwise, we're not actually looking at reality directly. So somebody's thought that is horrifically offensive to you, that you think is a terrible thing and makes them a terrible person for thinking it, is being thought because on some level it is true. So you have to figure that out. How is it true? How is it paradoxically true with my truth? And you start stamping that down and making it unacceptable and shaming people for it. You end up down a very, very dark road where a lot of damage is done on the other side. So I think to be the best steward of extroverted feeling or harmony is to integrate introverted thinking or accuracy by not handing your mind over to collectives, by not jumping on mimetic bandwagons, by going, what do I think that literally nobody agrees with me on? And is it okay for me to think that? And the answer is yes, absolutely. You get to think whatever you want to think.
And not just think it, but be brave enough to say it.
Yep, exactly. So people who have this as a strength, the shepherds of it, the stewards of this function, the FJs, the more they can make peace with their introverted thinking or accuracy, their truth that is separate from everybody else's, the better. and the more introverted thinking or accuracy users, the TPs, that are stewards of radical honesty, or at least their perspective of truth and paradox, the more they're brave enough to communicate and speak their truth. That's actually, interestingly enough, even though extroverted feeling or harmony has a tendency to kind of like sometimes not listen to, say, extroverted thinking or effectiveness, it has a tendency to go, well, you know, I don't have to listen to that. If a well-reasoned argument that is penetratingly accurate and a representation of complete truth, most of the time FJs go, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really sounds like what we really want is to also create containers where there's safety in addition to harmony.
Right. Safety for expression of thought.
Right.
And including unacceptable thought.
So I don't have to worry about getting exiled from the tribe just because I'm saying an unpopular opinion.
That's right. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So I have to play devil's advocate here.
Of
now.
course you do.
It's my job. No, I just chose
Plus
it.
your FI. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the argument on the other side for these unacceptable truths is, well, we've already heard these truths. And we've already decided as a society that they're not okay. Like, do we have to allow people that we've already vetted these things? Like, we already know this is harmful. This is a terrible thought. It led to whatever. I mean, you could fill in the terrible thing. I don't want to name anything specific because everybody's got theirs. And so I'll just take a side, basically. But we all have the thing that we think is so horrible that is an unacceptable thought we can't speak. And so the argument is, we've already figured this out. Like, you know? So why would we allow something that society has already agreed? Like, we've already agreed murder is wrong, you know? So why would we have to allow someone to get up and say, you know, I think the purge is a good idea, guys. Let's do this once a year because it's great to go out and just freeform kill everybody. Like, we're going to put that person in Congress or whatever government you're using and have them give that idea out. That's kind of ridiculous, right? I mean, I'm begging the question here, but the idea is that we silence some things we've already figured out as society.
Okay, so there is a difference, and anybody who uses introverted thinking or accuracy understands this. There's a difference between saying something and enacting something, right? And putting it into, like, you know, like the purge would take I mean, I know you're being a little facetious, but that would be an entire system running that we would have to implement.
Well, let's get specific. Let's say somebody went to a college campus to not implement it, but they wanted to give a talk on why they think the purge, killing people, is a great idea once a year. And a group of people shout them down off the stage to say, I don't think that's, and they shout that they won't let them speak because they think that's a terrible, they don't even want that idea but being articulated for society, let alone enacted upon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the example I'm thinking in terms of, not just inaction, but those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Someone would say.
So it definitely feels like that's noble, right? We're making sure that people who have unacceptable opinions are not able to spread their opinions. The challenge is that those opinions are being spread in places you can't see or manage.
That's right.
So thoughts don't go anywhere, just like feelings, right? It's like, well, that's an unacceptable feeling, so stop feeling it. Like, okay, or I guess I'm stop feeling it, but I didn't. It's there. I'm just repressing it. And so when a thought lives, one of the best ways to remove it is it to stop it from being expressed, but to allow the person to express it so they can hear themselves saying it. Right? Like, sometimes I say things and I'm like, at the end of it, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think that at all. But when it's in my head, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and it almost, for me, feels like it gives you an opportunity to diffuse a bomb, because it feels like if we keep putting this undercover, there's just more tension, there's more energy, and I think we have a lot of examples where we suddenly see purges happening, and if we actually allow that person a platform and can maybe approach that with some curiosity and care instead of judgment, blame, and exercising them for having these types of feelings, it just feels important to give some air for that so that it doesn't explode in ways that are so harmful.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree with you.
Really dangerous thoughts end up finding each other, especially when we're connected online, and then they end up because nobody else will listen to them, they end up connecting with each other in real life. And then they end up creating communes. And now all of a sudden you've got like people living in certain places that are radicalized and dangerous. And it's like, well, do we want that situation? Because that's what happens when you stamp down ideas. So it's not an easy fix. Like shouting it down is an easy fix, but it's a Band-Aid, and it comes back to haunt you later.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, the best way for extroverted feeling or harmony to be responsible as they believe they are, as well-intended as they want to see themselves as, that other side of the polarity is absolutely imperative. And for them to remember that they have thoughts that they disagree with literally everybody around, and they're allowed to have that thought, and they're allowed to say it. And so that's my personal opinion on how to responsibly steward that energy.
And it's really modeling respect, because even though we don't like the idea, it's like this person gets to exist, they get to matter, they get to have a voice, and maybe that's what's actually most important in some situations.
Yeah, and sometimes they're right and the collective is wrong. Right? That's the other thing. Like, we've all heard the story, the apocryphal story of the emperor has no clothes. People in groups, if there's no calibrative thought, they can start believing some wiggity whack stuff, right? And so it's like that one person go, listen, everybody has lost it. Like, your guys are all off your rocker. And somebody goes, oh, thank God somebody said it, right? Because I had to pretend that I thought this was all like the right thing, but it's actually, yeah, it's totally right. And so you need that one voice. That's why those people exist, because they're representing a truth that maybe you can't access yet. You might be the wrong one, even if you have numbers on your side. So, yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kara. Appreciate it. Give her a hand. All right.